welcome back to the Photoshop Basics for Scrapbooking class. Today, I am so excited to dive into our final topic of using Photoshop and Photoshop elements to help us create our scrapbooking pages. Over the course of the next 8 weeks, we're going to be covering a ton of different topics related to layer templates and creating digital versions of our pages within these two programs. We're going to take baby steps to get there, and so today's lesson is going to be about guidelines. We talked about guidelines a while back towards the beginning of this class, just a very general how to use them. In today's lesson, I'm going to tell you why I use them when I am planning out the different projects that I'm creating. And this is going to be our first step into creating pages inside of both Creative Cloud and Elements. So without further ado, let's go ahead and head on over to the computer so I can show you how I use guidelines to begin the process of planning my pages. Now that we're over here on my desktop, I'm going to start us inside of Photoshop Creative Cloud, and then we're going to move into Photoshop Elements so I can show you how to begin the process of creating a layout in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. For this, primarily I'm going to be showing you how to set up or how to pre-plan a layout within these digital programs. You can absolutely print them out exactly as they are and have a fully digital yet printed photo album. But this is a process that I use to help me figure out my layouts, to help me design what I'm going to do in the physical version before I use my physical products. So that is primarily why I am using the Photoshop or Photoshop Elements to design my layouts. When I am beginning this process, the first thing I need to know is what size I'm going to create my layout in. If I'm going to be working on a 12 by 12 layout, then I need to create a canvas that is sized at 12 inches by 12 inches. If I'm going to be working on a double page layout of Project Life, then I need to make sure whatever size Project Life I'm creating in, which for me in 2022 is a 9 by 12, I need to double the width of that in order to get the full double page layout. So instead of a 9 by 12, I would create a layout that is 18 by 12. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's pretend that we're going to be making a double page layout inside of Project Life sized for a 9 by 12 album. So I'm going to begin by going up to File and New, and here in my preset details, I want to go ahead and customize the size that I'm printing or that I'm creating. For this, I'm going to do 18 inches wide, so that's 2 times 9, 2 of the 9-inch pages, and my height is going to be 12 inches tall. I'm going to make sure that my resolution is 300 pixels per inch, and then with my background being white. So then I can go ahead and create this canvas. It is a little close to me, so let me just back it off here just a little bit. Oh, that's better. So we can see it here on the screen. So this is my double page 9 by 12 layout. Now to help me out, I like to use guidelines to give me those points of separation. So I am going to come over into my rulers, which again, if you don't have your rulers open, you need to go up to View and down to Rulers, or use the keys Control R or Command R to turn your rulers on. So you're going to have one at the top and one at the side. I'm going to click on my ruler to the side, to the left of my page, and drag a guideline until it clicks into the middle at that 9 inches. Then I can let go and I have a blue line. So this is helping me to see that I have 2 separate pages that I'm going to be working on to create the whole. I could take this one step further and separate my pockets here where they would go. So there'd be one at 4 inches and one at 8 inches. Let's see if I can. Oop, there you are. So we've got the 3 separate rows that are 4 inches in height. And then I could also come in here and add them every 3 inches as well. So there's the 3, there's the 6, and then this would be 9, and then we'd have 12 and 15. Oh, somewhere in here, 15. There we go. So this shows you that if I had 2 9x12 pages where there were 9 3x4 pockets, these are the sections that those 3x4 pockets would fit inside of. So we can use these guidelines to really help us visually see the spaces where our components can fit in, whether that's a journaling card or a photo or an embellishment or whatever it is you're going to put inside of these pockets. This is always the first step that I take for myself so I can figure out where everything's going to go and visually conceptualize it. Now, if I were working in a different size, maybe I'm going to be working on a 12x12 instead. So let's go ahead and create a 12x12 canvas. So again, we're going to open a new document, and we're just going to make sure that our width is 12 inches, our height is 12 inches, 300 pixels per inch, and we will create this. Now on a 12x12, you might be creating something that's a grid. You might be creating something that's not. So let's say for this one, I just want to know where the middle point is so that can help me, or so that I can kind of conceptualize where things are going to go in terms of, if I have something down in the lower left, do I want to balance it in the upper right? So you can grab these guidelines and snap them into place so that you've got your midpoint right here and you've got kind of a visual on a grid sort of look for this canvas. A lot of times it just depends on what type of project I'm making and whether I'm doing grids or whether I'm just kind of free-flowing something, but using the guidelines to help me visually see where things are going to go on the page. So this is the first step for designing a layout in Photoshop. We are going to be taking this component, this topic within Photoshop fairly slow, going one baby step at a time. Some of this is going to look pretty familiar because we have talked about guidelines in the past, but specifically for today's lesson, I just want to get you thinking about how you can use guidelines to help you break up your larger canvas into bite-sized pieces, and then moving from there to adding the components onto the page. Let's switch over to Photoshop Elements, and we're going to do the same thing over here. So we'll go to Open and New Blank File. Let's do the Project Life 9x12 again. So we're going to make the width 18 because we want 2 pages that we're working on here by 12 inches, 300 pixels per inch. Quick side note, if you're working on a double page 12x12, then your dimensions would be 24 by 12. If you're working in a 6x8 double page, then your dimensions would be 12 inches by 8 inches. Let's actually do this one more time. But what if I am working on a layout where I am designing a page to go into my 6x8 story album? One side is going to be a 6x8 divided page protector, and the other side is going to be outside of the page protector, so slightly bigger than a 6x8. What I would do in this case is I would take the full width of the two. So for me, if I'm printing for outside of the page protector, my width is 6.875 inches. You can also go up to 7. I just like mine to be slightly less. So my full width for the 2 pages is going to be 12 inches, 0.875, because we're adding in that extra little bit of width to accommodate for being outside of the page protector. Then for the divided pocket page size, my height is going to be 8 inches. But my outside of the page protector page is going to be 8¼ inches. So I'm going to go ahead and set my height to the largest height measurement I've got between the two pages. So this is going to be 8.25 inches tall, 300 pixels per inch, and we're going to hit OK. For this one, I need to keep in mind that my left side is only going to be 6 inches and my right side is going to be 6.875. So I don't necessarily want my guideline to show up in the direct middle because that would skew my dimensions. It would be an incorrect measurement. So for this, I'm going to use my guideline, or you can go up to View and click on New Guide and add in your exact measurement that you want. So I want my guideline to be a vertical line, and we're going to position it at 6 inches. And we'll hit OK. So now I have one section that is 6 inches and one section that is 6.875 inches. Now here our height is 8 1/4, and here we only want our height to be 8 inches. So what I often do for the side that's a little bit too tall is I take a guideline and I add it into the direct middle. For this, it's going to be 4.125. So when I add my elements onto the page, I know that if they are touching this guideline, they are in the middle of the page. What that means is there's going to be a little bit of a gap at the top and a little bit of a gap at the bottom, because the elements are only 4 inches tall and these are 4.125 inches tall. So it just helps me to better see where everything's going to line up. I also want to make sure that my middle line is matching up to the middle line of the photo or the journaling page that I'm putting on the right side of my layout. So it just helps me to keep that visual very clear for what this is going to end up like when I print it and make it in person. That, friends, is really all I want to talk about today. It's just using guidelines to help you conceptualize the page that you're going to make. What I would like you to do today for your homework is to create a double page layout in whatever size you are working on. So if you are creating primarily in a 6x8, I want you to create a canvas that is a double page 6x8, so 12x8. If you're working outside of the page protector, then increase your width to that 6.875 or to the 7 inches. So total, you would be looking at 12.875 or 13 inches in width. And then increase your height up to the 8 1/4 inches. So you have a standard canvas that you're using for a double page layout. Then I want you to play around with the guidelines. You can create, so here we could do a full page photo. Here I could do 2 4x6s. I could bring over another guideline to add into the middle here, which isn't perfect. So I'd probably need to add it this way at 3 inches. And then I can see where I can add in some of my 3x4 cards or photos. I just want you to play around with different configurations of how your pages might look and get a feel for using guidelines to help you see where things can go on the page. That's what I would like you to do this week. When we come back next week, we're going to be talking about using shapes as placeholders for different elements on your page, whether that's for a photo or for a journaling card or for an embellishment. We can use shapes to help us designate and see where our different components are going to live on these pages. So that's what we will cover then. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next lesson.